Hey there and welcome in to UP Power. It's Kevin McNulty and Keegan Cooper with you. How's my jaw look?
Looks good. Looking good.
Yeah,
looking
right?
good.
It feels good. Had a little work done, you know?
Yeah.
You know? We got a bunch to get to, obviously. Basketball season, hockey season, really ramping up. Should be a great weekend of college hockey here in the UP, but we got a new high school basketball poll, so I think we should start there. Actually, I want to start with something not sports related, okay? Clearly, I went to the old Bucks on my way in. No sleeves. No, I'm not complaining about that. I'm complaining about somebody ordered an iced coffee today.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
I don't know. I mean, hey.
When the temperature has a little negative sign in front of it, maybe not a good time for iced coffee. I don't know.
If fair. I mean, I can drink iced coffee year round, but I would have to agree. You got to go hot coffee.
I get it, but the chill doesn't really leave you when it's this cold outside. I was drinking iced coffee last week. I had 4 giant holes in my mouth with extremely sensitive nerve endings. I don't think everyone has that problem. So I just wanted to rant about that. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Division 1 through 3, boys poll, same 6 teams, 7 teams, pretty much. Ironwood jumps in receiving votes, but take us through 1 through 5.
Yeah, Marquette at 1, 9-2. Iron Mountain, Mountaineers 9-2 as well. Westwood at 3, 11-3. Kingsford 4, 9-2 and 5. Munising sneaks in. We thought that they would. They're 10-2 right now. And then, of course, receiving votes, Ironwood at 7-2 and Negaunee receiving votes at 8-3. So I disagree with this. A little bit.
Go ahead.
I mean, just looking at who's beat who and who's played who.
Yep.
Marquette, I think we can agree, deserves that one
Well,
spot.
can we actually talk about Marquette's win on Saturday?
Yeah.
Because they added these games to their schedule downstate because that's who they're going to be playing in the postseason. Obviously, the Traverse City games early in the season, they lost both of those by a combined 7 points. Traverse City West and Central. That's early in the season. That's early December. Well, then they go down to take on Grand Blanc, 66-65. Really nice win for Marquette, and obviously no one in the UP has beaten them. Everyone's chasing after the Sentinels. I think it's going to stay that way.
Yeah, I think it will too, and a big win for them because that, like you said, that's who they're going to see in the postseason. They want to play those teams now. They're so deep. What they do inside and out, how they run.
Also in their district, you know, when we get there, the seeding could be more favorable because of a win like that. So pretty huge for Marquette. I mean, Menominee, we both agree, is pretty good. They're a young team. They're very young. You know, a state quarterfinalist last year, but Marquette beat them by 30.
Yeah, which is not.
That's why I say everyone's chasing Marquette all season.
Yeah,
that's how it's going to be. Get into 2, 3, 4 here and your opinions.
Yeah, so Iron Mountain's a 2, Westwood 3, Kingsford 4. Now, Westwood upsets Iron Mountain.
Yep.
Iron Mountain and Kingsford just played. That one a close back and forth game. Oscar Kangas seals it.
I think that's the reason Iron Mountain jumped to 2. But you don't like that they jumped to Westwood.
Westwood, yeah.
They lost to Westwood.
They lost to Westwood, right. Now, you look at Westwood's losses. They've lost to Marquette. They've lost to Kingsford. They've lost to Negaunee in overtime, just recently beat Negaunee.
Correct.
So
they are on a good win streak.
They are on a good win streak. It is hard when there's only 5 spots. I think Ethan Marta, Tristan Miller, what they're doing over there, the Patriots.
It's really, really impressive.
They're the second best team in the UP, right?
Okay.
Now, they haven't played Kingsford yet. Westwood doesn't. Do they play Kingsford?
I said they lost to Kingsford.
Oh, they lost to Kingsford,
now, when do they visit Kingsford?
Kingsford, yeah.
They don't.
They don't.
So that was their only meeting.
So maybe you I think Westwood is above Iron Mountain, but I think Kingsford is above Westwood.
Okay.
I think Iron Mountain drops to 4, really, in my eyes. If I'm making my own top 5, you go Marquette, probably Kingsford, because Kingsford beats Westwood. Westwood's at 3, and Iron Mountain is still at 4. Now it changes.
Now they've only lost to each other pretty much here.
And that's hard, right? Because it's like, well, who did you beat? Well,
and plus Negaunee has knocked a couple of them off Westwood and Iron Mountain. So yeah, I don't know. I think those teams are so bunched up.
Yeah.
You know, and that the West Pack is going to come down to the wire too. But yeah, I really like all these teams, and there's really no saying who's the best in my opinion outside of Marquette. So
yeah, and I mean, looking at these votes, look, Marquette 30 votes, Iron Mountain goes to 20, Westwood has 18, Kingsford has 16. So it's really like anybody's game. But I think like looking at divisions 1 through 3, it's Marquette, and then there's a little bit of space, maybe a little bit more space now, and then everybody else, right? And it's any given night, right? If Ethan Marta's having a good night, then maybe it's Westwood's night. If Gavin Grondin is going off, then the Flivers are going. If Oscar Kangas is hitting from the outside and doing what he does defensively, then maybe it's the Mountaineers. Too close to tell, but I think Westwood's above Iron Mountain, maybe Kingsford's above both of them.
We should talk about Munising, because the common denominator here is all these teams are playing really, really well. I mean, outside of Kingsford's loss to Iron Mountain, none of these teams have lost in 2025, I don't think. Munising plays a slightly different schedule. They did lose to Westwood. They lost to Forest Park in a close one. Obviously, they're D4. We will get to D4 in a moment. But they're on a hot streak right now, and obviously that's, state championship isn't that long ago, a much different team, but they have that championship culture, DNA. Carson Kinnitz is a really good player. All those guys we were talking about during football season.
Yeah.
They're one of those teams that, straight from the turf to the hardwood, and really talented players for the Mustangs.
Yeah, and I don't think that they'll maybe jump higher than 5 simply because of strength of schedule, right? And I think that plays a factor too. But what Carson Kienitz, what Trevor Nolan catching the ball from anywhere beyond the arc and has the ability to make it. Jack Dussault inside. We watch him catch passes in football season, and now he's catching passes in basketball season.
He's got height.
Running the floor and finishing. So they're a team to keep your eye on, right? They have the
especially because, Keegan, I'm looking at their schedule ahead.
Yeah.
I see maybe one more loss.
Yeah.
Pickford's there to close the season. They're good. Ishpeming this Friday. We'll be there. We'll have highlights of that game. Ishpeming will be a test. But outside of that, Munising's not going to lose more than one. I'd be really surprised if they lose 2 games the rest of the way. So props to them. We were talking about a good team, and then Negaunee just, got to avoid those bad losses. Right? And then Ironwood jumps in. They're, really good, Western UP team, so well-deserved for them to receive votes. Let's look at Negaunee's schedule here, because maybe they're the most dangerous team.
Yeah, because if they're having a good night, man, they are
Their
dangerous.
losses are to Kingsford, Marquette, and Westwood. They've all lost to each other.
Yeah.
So that probably wasn't even right to say bad losses for Negaunee. They just got to take down one of those teams. They did in overtime against Westwood, but they'll keep battling.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair to Negaunee, Ethan Marta was having himself a night when the Miners lost that one. He gets over the 1,000-point mark. I mean, it just felt like if he was shooting it, it was going in. So the Miners are hanging around, right? Because if they're on, right?
Yeah.
If they're on and they're hitting shots, then they are that dangerous team that you don't know what could happen.
We got Negaunee, Iron Mountain Wednesday now, so that should be a fun one. Division 4, read us 1 through 5.
Yeah, Forest Park at 11-1, Pickford 10-1, Dollar Bay 9-3. They're tied with Norway for third, also 10-3, and then in fifth, North Dickinson 9-3, and then receiving votes, Stevenson at 10-4.
And we got to get out to a North Dickinson game.
Yeah.
I think they've been impressive. Not necessarily a team on our radar coming into the season, but they've been playing really, really well. Forest Park's got a chance to go really deep in Division 4.
Yep. I think it is the...
Mentioned their win over Munising. That's very impressive. And their only loss thus far is to Kingsford.
Yeah, which you would...
You'd probably expect them
to
drop that one because Kingsford's probably a more talented team. But again, Forest Park's schedule the rest of the way, a lot like Munising, looks favorable. They do play Marquette. That might not go so well.
That'll be interesting, right?
See if they can hang.
Yeah.
Because obviously you have Kevin Giuliani. Is he quick enough to guard Jacob McPhee?
Maybe not.
Because you would expect him to be
yeah.
on McPhee just because of height. I don't think outside of the Giuliani brothers, Forest Park's that big.
Yeah, I think Kevin and Vic might end up having to guard the big guys because Kevin has that size and height, and Vic also does, right? So I can see Vic having to guard, what is it, Fernstein?
Yeah, Firestein.
Firestein, yeah, just for height. So then that's a question of who do you put on the guards?
And that's just a luxury that Rich Leedy has that no one else has. You know, Kangas, they don't have another Kangas on Iron Mountain's roster. You know, Kingsford doesn't have a second Morgan Slike. They have a guard in Grondon who's going to play in college, who's really talented, but it's not the same as having the Twin Towers.
No,
you know,
the Twin Towers. Yeah.
So I always talk about Marquette's depth, and it shows itself when they play these other good teams in the UP. Norway feeling itself too. You know, they outside of losing to Forest Park, they haven't lost in a month.
Yeah.
And we know they have the dudes.
They have
Cole and Owen by.
Yeah.
I know for sure Cole plays basketball. I'm not sure about Owen, but talented kids.
Yeah. This one, I feel like in Division IV, especially in the UP, these teams, it's always interesting when the rankings come out because every week you don't always see a lot of changes in Divisions 1 through 3, but in Division 4, somebody beats somebody, and now they're in the top 5 because they had a great week and they've really shown what they can do. So this one's always interesting to me to see who, and I think.
Well, it's a little bit better because we know come postseason times, you know, these teams are going to have to go through each other.
Yeah.
There's no way around that versus obviously 3 divisions for the other poll where, you know, Marquette won't see any of those teams in the postseason, obviously. Moving on to girls.
Yeah, Division 1 through 3. Nagani 13-0, Gladstone 10-0 at number 2.
Yeah.
Sault Ste. Marie 3, 9-3. Calumet at 4 at 6-3, and Houghton at 5, 8-3. Others receiving votes. Ishpeming. I think we start there. The return of Maya Hemmer. You're gonna see.
Yeah, because with these schools, it's Nagani, Gladstone, and everyone else.
Yeah.
The one caveat to that is Ishpeming with Maya Hemmer back.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't play well against Nagani.
No.
When they had her back. It was her first game back.
Yeah.
First time playing live basketball, and I imagine a really long time, potentially since East Lansing. So you kind of understand why, you know, it wasn't working night 1 for the Hematites. But, yeah, we have to watch them going forward, for
Yeah,
sure.
we do, and I think for
Despite
them,
the 3 losses.
Yeah, and I think for them specifically, too, her defensive presence, her height is going to play a big role for them when they do press, because they will press her at the front of a press or in the middle or wherever she is. That's going to play a big factor. And I think also it takes a little bit of the pressure off of Janessa Eagle to know that, hey,
For sure.
I can throw it into somebody. They're gonna have a height advantage most times and be able to score the basketball, so she's not having to, you know, carry the scoring load as much as she had so far this season. Nagani, man, they are fun to watch. They get after it.
They move the ball so well.
They do, yeah.
They get out in transition.
Aubrey,
They really are a joy to watch. I agree.
Yeah,
Aubrey and Gretel Johnson. It's like they're playing in the driveway.
Yeah,
you know?
No, really, like playing in the driveway. That is a great analogy. The O'Donnells are doing what they do inside. You know, they just Kira Waterman has really grown from, I think, last year into this year.
She's just a sophomore. You know.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about her and her brother. Obviously, their dad was a coach at Nagani for a long time. Their brother played at Tech, now coaching at Tech as well. So they're a basketball family, and you know, not surprised to see actually both of them take a little jump in their sophomore years. And then I think there's a little bit of bunching including Ishpeming in there with Houghton, Calumet, really good teams.
Yeah.
That if Negaunee or Gladstone were to go down this year, I would expect it to be one of those three,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, I agree.
And then the Sioux we don't get to see very much,
yeah.
but they're a whole lot better than the boys team.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Fair. Yeah. And then Gladstone.
I think are winless.
Lily Johnson, what she does is, I mean.
Hey, we've talked about her. I mean, another basketball family.
Yeah.
Her dad being the head men's coach at Bay College. Players that have taken a jump basketball-wise from last year to this year, I think she's number one.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think not just too in like what she's able to do on the floor, but her leadership and things along those lines. I mean, obviously, yes, she's
Just confidence is evident out there. Like now she knows she's the best player on the floor.
Yeah.
In any game she plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe against Ishpeming, you give him or Eagle the edge over her, but any other game, she's the best player on the floor. Does Gladstone play Negaunee?
True, yeah. And what's interesting about this is last year we were having this conversation about Negaunee and Ishpeming, right?
January 28th, mark it on your calendar.
Negaunee plays Gladstone.
One of them will lose.
At Gladstone or at Negaunee?
At Gladstone.
So you got to give I don't know, right? Negaunee's been great.
I think Negaunee's the better team,
but do you give?
But Johnson's the best player. It's one of those situations, right?
Yeah, and Gladstone, that place will be packed. The student section will be loud. Do you give them the edge? I don't know. January 28th. I'm marking it on the calendar right now.
Yeah, you oughta.
That'll be a good one.
Move on to Division 4.
Yeah, let's do it. St. Ignace at 1, 11-1. Uintraut Creek at 2, also 11-1. Munising at 3, 10-0. Lons at 4, 10-1, and Lakeland and Hubble at 5, 9-2. Let me go to the second page here. Oh, I don't have anything else. Just those 5.
Yeah, no one receiving
votes.
So, St. Ignace, I don't think we've watched them play, but they have a player by the name of Jillian Frazier, who was really good last year, even better this year. Mm-hmm. So, you pretty much know that districts, regionals run through St. Ignace on the girls' side. Don't expect this year to be any different. I'm just checking my text from their coach, Doreen Ingalls. Jillian, 14 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals. This was their win over Menominee.
Yeah.
So she's one of those players that can kind of take over a game.
Yeah. No. I mean, there you go. When you're posting a stat line like that, pretty much I would say.
And it's not all points. That's like a LeBron stat line where it's like, okay, maybe don't only look at the points. Look at the assists. Look at the rebounds, steals. So she's one of those really talented players that we don't get to see play that often, but come postseason time, look out.
Yep.
Now, Uintraut Creek, they've only lost to Negaunee.
Yeah, and I mean
and that's why I think it's correct that they're in over Munising.
It's true.
Because outside of Negaunee, they are undefeated. Munising's also undefeated, but
I would agree.
We knew going in, and I certainly did. From the district final they played against Ishpeming last year, they weren't as talented as Ishpeming, but they fought.
Yeah.
And they were young. They had 8th graders up.
Yeah, and I think that's
team.
It's something you got to think about is how young
playing
they
varsity basketball.
Yeah, nothing I ever did, so I can't imagine the pressure that comes with that. But hey, 11-1, the best
and probably
sisters.
something you could never do in boys basketball.
No.
More favorable for the girls. So they're still young, but man, they are good.
Mm-hmm. The Bessinen sisters doing what they do.
That's exactly right.
Watch out! I mean, it's so interesting. All these teams that are in the top 5, when you look at their losses.
And again, they have to play each other in the postseason. Mm-hmm. That's why it's really interesting. Munising hasn't been slipped up. And I don't know where they're going to.
Yeah.
You're just looking at their schedule going forward. They have a matchup with Ishpeming down the road, February 14th. That'll be interesting. Potentially their first loss, because right now I don't really see one on their schedule. And number 4 right behind them, 10-1. Lons. Yeah, I have to give credit to Josh Eagle.
Yeah, what he's done over there.
Janessa's father, who was an assistant at Ishpeming previously. You've seen them play.
Yeah,
they kind of play the same style as the Hematites last year.
They remind me of the Hematites a year ago in the way that they press, the way that they get after it, the way that they push the ball up and down, they shoot the 3, they rebound, they're active.
Yeah,
active with their hands, offense, defense. They are active. So they're a team to watch too. 10-1, and I think they were figuring some things out in the beginning of the season. You play enough games and things like that, but they have it figured out now, and they're playing some really good basketball.
And then Lake Linden at number 5, one of those teams that has a player that's better than most others on the floor that night. That's Emily Jokla.
Yeah,
she had 1,000 points, I think, last year as a junior. She's going to run track at Grand Valley next season. Next school year, I should say. She's a really good player, and most of the reason they're in the top 5 here.
Yeah, just kind of an all-around athlete, and you see it on the basketball floor. She's quick, she can shoot, she can dribble, she finds her teammates when they're open too. This is another interesting top 5 for me, because any given night, whoever's on might have a better night than whoever's not on.
I agree. There are some really good teams. A quick touch on high school hockey. I think Jeffers just keeps winning.
Keeps winning.
That's where I want to start. They're 14-2. They knocked off Marquette at their place 6-5 a couple weeks ago, and then that 3-2 win over Eski that they had to gut out. Hanenens, that was the name we kept hearing in the highlights. So, wanted to shout out Jeffers as just playing really, really good hockey for most of the season. They just suffered their second loss. That was to Granville from downstate. So,
and I think they have Houghton later coming up.
Next up, Wednesday night.
Yeah, so there you go.
At the SDC.
So that will be an interesting one, for Jeff. Maybe a test.
For sure, and I think Houghton definitely going through a changing the guard a little bit, because they lost their all-state goaltender in Brian Lee. He's at Tech. Mikey Milet last year was their number 1 forward. He was outstanding. So they've suffered 5 losses now, but that program, they're just going to keep getting better throughout the season.
Yeah.
Micah Stipich, great coach. Bad loss at home to Brother Rice, 5-1. Since then, they've turned around. They beat Granville. So I give Houghton the edge in that Jeffers game, but narrowly. Kind of throwing records out the window. Houghton's still obviously very, very talented. We've talked about Marquette being a young team. That's certainly true. They're 11-7, but they've had 3 wins in a row here since that Jeffers loss. Bunch of downstate teams on their schedule. They're going down this weekend, so come postseason time, like Marquette could be dangerous. They're not quite where they were last year. A lot like Houghton.
Yeah.
Last year at this time, those were the only 2 teams.
Those are the teams we're talking about. Yeah.
Not exactly the same, but we kind of like what they're doing a little bit.
Yeah, and I think Marquette is every game they play, they're figuring it out a little bit more, right? I was at their senior day last year, and they graduated what felt like it felt like the list of seniors wasn't going to stop last year.
Yeah,
so
right.
when you have that kind of, I won't say turnover, but when you have that graduating class that leaves, that the next class coming in is, you got to kind of take your lumps and learn and improve and get back out there. And they've done that, So 11-7, not a bad place to be, and they could be dangerous in the postseason. Anything can happen in hockey.
Let's stay with hockey, college hockey.
Northern Michigan gets the sweep. We got to start there.
Absolutely, we do, because
first sweep, and I looked this up.
I didn't.
Today.
I'll admit, I didn't think they had a sweep in them.
I thought they would win one, but I didn't see the sweep either.
I said going into the second half of the season, just pick games off here and there. Get a win there. Build the confidence that this group clearly needed and might have been lacking in the first part of the season. but leaving no doubt at Bemidji.
Yeah, well, to
Against
go,
one of the best goaltenders in the conference, Matthias Scholl.
Yeah.
Maybe preseason goaltender of the year. I think he was.
Yeah. You go into Bemidji's house and you leave with 2 wins.
He's just thoroughly impressive. And they're 100% in play for making the tournament.
Yeah, which I think second half of the season, that's your goal is find a way to, like you said, chip a game here, and do it. And what better time to chip a game than this weekend, right?
It's going to happen this weekend. Obviously, Tech and Northern had played each other 3 times, 4 if you count the exhibition. And they were, they had the lead after 1 period in Houghton. That Saturday game in November, that's so early in the season.
That's very early, yeah.
And then, fought back in that game at the GLI, forced overtime, and Sardarian and Morel. And overtime, that's a tough hill to climb, but I think they get one this weekend.
Yeah, and coming off a sweep, your confidence has got to be, I wouldn't say at an all-time high, but yeah, at an all-time high.
Oh, for this team, absolutely
yeah,
it is.
You went to somebody else's house and you took home 2 wins. You're finding, goals, multiple.
Yeah.
Now,
and that line, Altrichter, Slippick, those guys that were producing most of the offense early in the season have just been doing it at a higher clip.
Yeah.
Over the past 2 weekends.
Yeah.
Certainly the case, Altrichter had the first 2 on Friday night. Matthew Romer gets the next 2, really good. Altrichter had another one on Saturday, and the weekend before that was Dugay's time. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Dugay, yeah.
Dugay, yeah.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah,
A check at the standings now, because obviously there are 9 teams in the CCHA this year, with Augustana coming in. Soon it will be back to 8 when St. Thomas leaves. They are still in last place with 11 points, but only 7 behind Ferris.
Yeah. And with the percentage, how's the percentage playing? What's their percentage?
Northern's at 229, Ferris is 375. Again, I don't really know how that works, but those two, they'll play the same amount of games, so it doesn't necessarily matter between them.
Hear me out.
They're chasing. They're still in the basement, but it's not dead.
It's not dead, and if they could sneak in to the 8 spot, and Mankato stays at 1, the first points they got in the season.
That's a good point.
Was against Mankato.
That's a good point.
And Mankato could, it could be rocky. And speaking of Mankato.
Well, after, that loss to Northern on that Friday night.
That hurt you.
That tanked their pairwise.
Yeah.
Absolutely did. Those guys had to be gutted. That probably felt like a postseason loss.
Yeah.
Like, we lost to NMU?
Yeah.
When we're the number 12 team in the country?
Yeah. That's the crazy thing about hockey, man, is any night somebody can beat you, and I think that's what I like more and more about hockey every day. It's like, you can be ranked. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed to win.
Yeah, you gotta do a lot of things right. You gotta win the special teams battle, and that's obviously Northern has improved in that department. We talked about that after the GLI. I don't know what their power play percentage is now, but it's higher than 7%, like it was headed down to Grand Rapids. So good for them. Meanwhile, Tech obviously was at Mankato this past weekend. They were still ranked number 12.
I think
they fall on Friday, but overtime, 1-0 win. Manzella.
Yeah.
You talked to Joe Sean about him today, just the impact he's had, and has he taken the job from Malahi? Because remember, Malahi got pulled after 20 minutes on Friday.
Yeah, he hasn't taken the job, but I think, there's always, and this for any team anyway, there's always going to be competition in the goaltender room.
For sure, yeah.
Right, so, but, Manzella's definitely came in and made himself a case to be like, I need to be the guy that's out there and doing those things. It was also tough for Malahi gets pulled, right, and then Manzella goes in, and I feel like once a goaltender gets pulled and you're down that much, it's kind of like, okay, this isn't our night. But they respond well the next night. get what I would consider a really, really gritty win.
Absolutely.
I mean, to skate for, I don't know, 62 minutes and nothing goes in, and then you get the game winner, a relief. I think going to Mankato, tough place to play, that is your best result on the week. I mean, obviously the best result is you sweep them at their place. But if you can get a split, you're happy.
Yeah, Manziel is 4-0. The overtime shutout is impressive. I think he had 31 saves. Not crazy numbers, but especially after they got bombarded in the first period against, Friday night. And that's why Malahi was pulled. And there was down 3-0 after a period of play. You don't want to think they're dead, but at that point they evidently were. So to respond on Saturday and play a lot better defensively, that's a good sign.
It'll be interesting this weekend, though, because they'll be playing a different team than they played, 3-4 times already?
I agree.
It's not, I think.
Well, after Northern played MSU tight in the GLI, I imagine they felt pretty good after that one, going to play Tech in the third place game the next day.
Yeah.
But that playing Michigan State tight doesn't compare to getting a conference sweep.
Yeah, no.
For your second and third conference wins.
Yeah, their first conference sweep. I looked this up today. The last one was at the end of the regular season last year, March 1st and 2nd.
Yeah.
It's been 326 days.
Yeah.
So,
I believe it. They were. I'm really happy for those guys. To be perfectly honest with you, because no one deserves to go through a season like they were having.
Yeah.
It's not it's not going to be a great season at this point. They're still 4-19-1, but the fact that there's a 4
and not a 0
in the win column,
right? There could be a 0.
And there was a 1 for a really long time.
Yeah.
84 days.
Yeah.
They had the 1 win over Alaska. So now that's up to 4. I mean, go out, get the 8 seed, and play Minnesota State in the tournament, because that would be funny.
That would be.
I mean, that's
awesome.
a best 2 of 3 in the first round of the Mason Cup. So
anything can happen.
I think it'd be unlikely, but you never know. So Friday night is in Houghton. Catch that one on Fox UP. They're honoring Tony Esposito. A lot of his family will be there before the game. Friday we will carry that starting at 7. And then back on Fox UP in Marquette on Saturday, 6 o'clock. So excited to see a good crowd at Northern on Saturday.
Yeah,
obviously
I think it will be.
That part hasn't been there when they've been at home, but it'll be a great environment both nights, obviously.
Yeah, and go out and get one, Northern. I mean, I mean, that locker room.
I told you, I think they will.
Static.
I think they split this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, on Friday and Saturday, you come in after that game, that locker room just had to be all smiles and cheers, because you get the sweep, and now you ride that high. You come in, you get momentum. Now, you're playing Michigan Tech, and you know what they have, you know what they can do. But let's go Wildcats. Yeah, I think it's a weekend split for sure, which is good.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, what skaters are out there together. I talked about Altrichter and Slippick. They were the top line with Aiden Hutchinson on Saturday. Then you had Duguay, Tucker, and Romer. So curious to see how they sort that out this weekend. It ain't broke. It definitely ain't broke. So
No.
I wouldn't expect many changes there. Chase Pietala might have to
Maybe he has
have a big weekend.
Maybe he does.
Might have to show up for the Huskies, even if he's not filling out the box score. Talk basketball, because and start with the men, because it's a really big weekend for both Tech and Northern.
Yeah.
With Lake State, Ferris State, the top 4 teams in the conference.
Yeah.
Between Tech, Northern, Lake State, and Ferris. Very big weekend. Let's start with Tech, because they are darn good.
They are, yeah. And
at this point.
They continue to, play in the system that works for them, right? Whether it's a night where Marcus Tomaszek has 35 points or he has 10 points.
And this is actually Matt Makerzak talking about this before they played each other. That's the difference and why I don't think anyone was upset to see Dan Goretzka go to D1, because all those guys around Marcus, they know, and they have so much confidence that they'll do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And if it's a night where Tomaszek has 10 and somebody else is going to step up, they're perfectly happy doing that. And they got guys like Terrian and Norgard who just do the dirty work.
Yeah, and Just Jarian can step up and
hit a big shot.
Hit a big shot. Adam Hobson just hits 1,000 points. He hit some big shots this past weekend. I mean, Ty Fernholz, who kind of emerged as their second leading guy.
I think he's what has kind of put them over the top.
Yeah,
in terms of competing for a conference championship this year.
Yeah, because now you're not just guarding one guy that can shoot it from probably anywhere on the floor. You're guarding two guys that can shoot it. And Josh Bittner talked about this today where, Ty at the beginning of the season was kind of just a catch and shoot guy. Well, now he's evolved to be a catch and shoot guy, but also come off screens and catch and shoot and kind of make plays happen for himself, but also for everybody else. They are a fun team to watch. They are fun to watch. And I'm convinced.
I'm just laughing at Tomaszek's numbers this weekend. He's 7 for 16 against Saginaw. They didn't play well.
No.
But he got to the free throw line 14 times.
Yeah.
He was 12 for 14. He finishes with 29.
Yeah, and it hit the game.
That's another thing Mackrzak talked about when we were getting ready for that Tech game is he's impossible because he gets the rim. He's either going to finish or he's going to go to the free throw line.
Yeah, and he's going to make the free throws.
Yeah, he's 12 for 14, like I said. And then on Saturday, he's got 32 points in 32 minutes. Again, he's 8 for 19, not shooting it lights out, but he gets to the free throw line 18 times.
Yeah, man, dude, that's insane. Like
Sidebar.
Yeah.
Green Bay's 2 and 18.
Oh my God. Oh, it just keeps getting worse. I mean, they are so much fun to watch because of the way that they play, and they
really are, especially when they're shooting it like they were at the Vandament.
Yeah, that was
10 days ago.
And people would say, "Oh, he scores all the points." Yeah, but it's not selfish basketball. They move it. He's open. He shoots, and guess what?
He scores all the points when they need him to.
They need him to, but there's nights where he doesn't have to, which I think is what makes them great.
They're so well-rounded, and we brought up guys like Terrian and Norgard.
Yeah.
Pete Calcaterra.
Yeah, dude, having some breakout nights.
That Roosevelt game, he had 24. He was just going to the rim. He's bloody,
Yeah, get to the rim.
And he's built like a linebacker.
He's built with he's a brick house. He's a brick house. Gabe Smith, the freshman, Jackie Smith's younger brother.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's playing some big minutes.
That's why. Gosh, I was gonna give Lozier some crap because Jackie was wearing Tech stuff at the at the Northern Tech game, and I forgot about that fact.
Yeah.
So valid from her. She's off the hook.
Yeah, she's off the hook now, but
she's not a traitor completely.
But yeah, I mean they are an exciting team to watch. They are fun to watch.
Let's talk about Northern, a team that and Matt Mackrzak would agree, they're not as fun to watch. But they're
not playing the best basketball that they can play.
They only have 2. They're 6-2 in the conference. Then that's the impressive part. We talked about this off the air, where they're not as talented as Tech, Ferris, and Lake State. They're not.
No.
But they're 6-2.
They're 6-2 in the conference. They're 12-4 overall.
Yes.
The one game, if I'm being honest, that you want back is who did they lose to? Wayne State, was that?
Yeah.
That's the game you want back. If you're Matt Mackrzak and the Wildcats, in my opinion, that's the game that you're like, we should have won that one. Tech shot amazing, right? And then you played 2 other top 10 teams in the country.
So did Wayne State. It was the same game, except Mackrzak's assessment of the Tech game was his guys quit, and he said they competed in the Wayne State game. Mm-hmm. I mean, that guy Lee, for Wayne State, he had 40. Yeah, they're middle of the pack in this conference. They're obviously no slouch, But, yeah, Rob Lee Jr., 40 points.
It just feels like
12 for 18,
everybody
10 for 10 from
in
the line.
Vanderbilt. We should go do a shoot around in Vanderbilt, see if we can make it.
I mean, so I was at that Wayne State game.
Yeah.
The game. I agree with you. That's the one
That
loss
you want back.
of their 4 losses that they want back. But Wayne State made their first 7 threes, and then Northern didn't collapse there.
Yeah.
They came back,
Yeah.
and then the Warriors started making more and more shots, and it just became too much. They don't have a dynamite scorer like a Weisbrod or a Borklin
That's true.
or a Tomaszek. They don't.
That's
why it's impressive that they're winning games.
Yeah, because they don't. And who did they just play? Who did Northern just play?
Saginaw. Who's not good. That's why I said Tech played poorly against them, and we're fortunate to get out of there with a win. Where Tomaszek hit the shot with 2 seconds left.
Yeah.
So Northern had its way with Saginaw. That in the end, it was a slow start, right? You were there.
Yeah. I mean, Saginaw kind of jumped out to lead, but then Northern turned it on. And when you look at the box score, and I talked to Matt Makerzak after the game, they had 4 or 5 guys in double figures, a 6th guy with a
couple off the bench.
6 points and 6
Gittins
rebounds.
and Klesmit. We should talk about Cal Klesmit because I did talk with Matt about him. He didn't see minutes early in the season, but he decided really after that Tech game, I believe that, he's a redshirt freshman. He didn't play at all last year.
Yeah.
That he competes and he can shoot. He said we need a guy that can get in there and shoot. Yeah, he played 11 minutes against Tech. Those were his first minutes of the season.
Yeah.
And Wayne State, Saginaw, 22 minutes, 24 minutes. So that was my question to Matt after the game. Is he a mainstay in the lineup? Is he going to keep getting these minutes? And he said, well, yes, because he can shoot and he competes really hard.
Yeah, and I think when you're playing a team that's making everything, you need a guy that can also make some. And I watched him hit some big shots.
Because he's a good player.
He's a good player.
Is his brother still at Wisconsin?
We'll have to look that up.
Yeah, his brother Max was a really good player at Wisconsin.
But yeah, I mean, he hit some big shots.
I don't know why I haven't watched Wisconsin this year. Because
play.
Actually, are you ready to talk Big Ten basketball?
Yeah, we might.
Because you were in the highlights on Sunday.
Yeah.
That Illinois-Michigan State game was so much fun.
That was.
Besides, Michigan State fans, don't get mad at me. You have to agree. I saw this Spartan fan on Twitter. The fouls on Yakuchonis for Illinois.
Yeah,
he's the second best freshman in the conference behind Derek Queen at Maryland.
Yeah.
That's not an opinion. He is so good. He's like 6'6", point guard. He makes everyone better. He fouled out with, I think 12 13 minutes remaining.
He can't be, yeah.
3 of those fouls were not fouls. Big Ten refs, you can't take UP MHSAA refs, you can't take the best player out of the game in the second half, please.
Please, yeah.
Fair.
Fair. I agree.
When Oscar King is fouled out at Marquette, I'm like, okay, game's over now.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it felt Sunday when Yakuchonis fouled out, but that Riley kid in the first half.
Oh my gosh.
Really
he
good.
Hit everything.
I think. So Michigan State's the only undefeated team in the Big Ten. Do you think they win it? I'm going to get your opinion first before I share mine.
I mean, they're playing some good basketball.
I think Illinois is a better team.
But
let me say this about Michigan State. I love watching them because they're back to the Izzo identity. Mm-hmm. It's not Tyson Walker and A.J. Hoggard, good players, but they never took over games, and it just kind of felt how I felt about Dante Scott and Akeem Hart were at Maryland for 4 or 5 years, and just after a while it's like, these guys don't put us over the top.
Yeah.
That was the case with Michigan State. They were a bubble team last year, but they have a true point guard in Jeremy Fears again.
Jaden Akins.
He was injured. I guess he got shot in the leg last year and was out for the rest of the season. Very unfortunate circumstance, but he's healthy and really good. Jace Richardson, the freshman, whose dad, won Natty under Izzo 25 years ago. They're fun. And Frankie Fiddler, man, the Fiddler on the roof. He had the game of his life a couple days before that Illinois game. So great win for Michigan State, and it could end up winning them the conference.
It could. I can't disagree.
Illinois did lose at home to USC, so that's where I'm like, okay, maybe if they drop another game like that, they're not going to be able to compete for the title. So MSU 7-0, Purdue without Zach Edey, really impressive. They're 7-1. Michigan is 6-1. They only lost to Minnesota, who's only won that one game in the conference. They're down in the basement with Washington, who has only beat Maryland. And Illinois is 5-3. They're better than 5-3.
Yeah.
But I think Oregon's better than 4-3. Maryland's better than 4-4. Indiana's better than 5-3. Everyone's giving Indiana crap, which they should. They were lifeless against Illinois. But that's a really talented team. And then Wisconsin 5-2. I like this conference. It's nowhere near what the SEC is this year.
Yeah.
SEC so excited for March. Sorry. But that was what? That's like eight teams that I just kind of went through behind MSU. You know, Braden Smith probably second best guard in the conference. Purdue's not going anywhere.
True.
But yeah, MSU has the leg up, and then Michigan, they squeaked that one out over Northwestern on Sunday. Needed it after the Minnesota loss on a buzzer beater, but nobody has the 2 7-footers that they have.
True. Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Well. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Nobody does.
No, I don't know if their guard play is good enough for a deep run, but Dusty May's a darn good coach, man. Took Florida Atlantic to the Final Four, so Michigan fans probably not happy after what Ohio State did last night in football, but they got a good basketball team, and they'll compete in March.
Speaking on that, I saw this on Twitter. A Michigan fan was talking about how, regardless of what happened in the CFP, they were still going to be happy, right? Because Ohio State wins, you can say you beat the national champions, right? And if Notre Dame would have won, then you beat Ohio State, and Ohio State has nothing.
The $20 million roster didn't win a national championship.
And I said this to you leading up to the CFP. It was Ohio State's to lose, and obviously they didn't. So, good on them. Not that I'm an Ohio State fan.
How about, I thought Notre Dame was so dead, and they weren't. I got into a big debate in one of the group chats last night. So Notre Dame's down 16 with less than 10, I want to say about 6 minutes to go. This is just off the top of my head last night. 4th and goal from the 9, down 16. Marcus Freeman kicks. And I said in the moment, like, you cannot kick there. It's a 2-possession game. It'll still be a 2-possession game, even if he made the field goal, which he didn't. Then they got to stop. They got the ball back, obviously. Go down and score. Get the 2 points, so it's an 8-point game, right? And then I'm convincing myself, like, maybe the field goal wasn't a terrible idea, and that's how we backed it up after the game is 4th and goal from the 9. Were they going to convert? And he said in his head,
probably
not. It's so low percentage, especially against that Ohio State red zone defense, best in the country, bar none.
Yeah.
So then I was selling myself on the move to kick the field goal, so it becomes a 13-point game, then 2 touchdowns, wins it. And especially if they got that 3rd and 11 stop, sealed the game.
Yeah.
Or that conversion, I should say, sealed the game for Ohio State when Howard threw it up to Jeremiah Smith. If they got that stop, they get the ball back, about 2.5 minutes to go.
You had a chance.
Down 6 if they made the field goal. Obviously, you missed the field goal. It was a bad move, but I understand it.
Yeah, I don't know. That maybe it's the Dan Campbellness in me. 4th and 9, 2-possession game.
4th and 9, they don't throw the ball that well either.
True. So you probably, what do you run a reverse and try to get something on the outside?
Which you can't do against Ohio State. Look what happened
True.
To Texas.
Yeah.
Sawyer went
Yeah.
on a house call, and that was that game. So, tough situation. I mean, Notre Dame had very little room for error.
Yeah, they would have
But
had
they-
to play perfect. Yeah.
Ohio State scored 31 unanswered. And I thought, oh, God, this is going to be 52-7 final score. No, 34-23. Give Notre Dame credit. They'll be back. And I actually like Notre Dame now because they have a likable head coach. Right?
Like fair enough.
Funny how that
Fair
works.
Fair enough.
And I hope Ohio State doesn't create a little dynasty here like I think they could.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I think they have the best player in college football for the next 2 years, Jeremiah Smith. He's that good.
Yeah, he might. Yeah, you're not. I can't disagree.
I don't know what
with
they're
that.
going to do at quarterback, and it cracked me up. ESPN putting the odds up for next season's national championship, and it was most of the teams in the playoff. Then Alabama, the Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan wasn't in there, but Texas was number one. They were the only team on that list who knows right now who their quarterback's going to be. They have Arch Manning. And the rest of the schools, Ohio State included, you don't know who their quarterback's going to be.
Fair.
This modern era of college football, if you don't have a guy on your roster who you deem can win you a national title, for those 10, 15 schools that are legitimately competing for a national title, you go get the best one, you pay him. That's how it worked with Riley Leonard, Duke transfer, just the 1 year at Notre Dame, and then Will Howard from Kansas State just had the 1 year at Ohio State. That's what they did. It worked. More teams are going to keep doing that if you don't have an Arch Manning on your roster.
Does that belittle the idea of being recruited out of high school as a star quarterback? And, does that...
Well, the portal in general does that, and it's not specific to quarterback. But, it does.
It kills it, right? Like,
But, I don't know, is Bryce Underwood going to transfer from Michigan? Why would he do that?
fair.
He's getting
Buku bucks.
8 figures.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the new era, and that was discussion SVP was having is how many teams are in this realm with Ohio State that can spend the money on the roster and recruit out of high school and put it together, and you're a national championship favorite every year. I don't know. I don't know what that number is. But Big Ten is up at the same time.
Yeah, true.
Michigan last year, they go back to back.
Here's
The
one for you.
rivals.
Is Cooper, Flagg, and Duke worth the hype?
Yes, 100%.
He is a dog.
I don't know. They're not going to lose the rest of the ACC season.
They're going
The
to.
ACC is poo-poo,
They could be.
and Cooper
tournament
Flagg is
team.
only going to get better.
Yeah, he could
He's
be.
he's an NBA player playing in college.
college. Yeah, they could be a team in the tournament to watch.
And there's how many of those in the country? I think Janai Broom from Auburn is this year's Dalton Connect, where I don't even know where he transferred from, but he's hurt right now at Auburn. Auburn is good. I think they're the best team in the country. And Max Klesmet is still at Wisconsin, to answer my question. We have to wrap up with the post-mortem on the 2024 Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I mean,
Because that was so
I didn't say it.
best
but
season in franchise history.
Yeah.
They're 15-2,
back-to-back division champs.
back-to-back NFC North champions, home field advantage. The road to the Super Bowl went through Detroit, and they laid a stinker.
And you did all that with and people say, oh, you can't blame the injuries, blah, blah. They were able to do all that with everything that they went
Yes.
through injury-wise, which just
Extremely
speaks to
impressive.
how far they've come.
And it took Jaden Daniels to expose them for that.
Yeah, I mean.
Because it wasn't Minnesota,
No. The Vikings.
Sure, okay. Josh Allen did it.
Yeah.
Their second loss of the season. Josh Allen exposed that depleted defense.
Yeah.
But it was just, that second quarter was wild. Everything that happened. Goff throws the pick six where he gets leveled.
Yeah,
That definitely should have been a flag. Definitely should
Definitely.
have been a flag.
Yeah.
But Lions fans, the interception was going to count. The touchdown wasn't. They were going to be in the red zone.
Yeah. They were
You
going
know.
to score, yeah.
Probably. So I don't. That was far from a call that decided the game.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, Jaden Daniels was able to do what Jaden Daniels does.
So good.
And I mean, Dan Campbell said this in a press conference. The system that Washington runs works very well for Jaden Daniels, and he executes it very well.
And that's why Cliff Kingsbury is getting looks at head coaching jobs again.
Yeah.
Even though it was a disaster in Arizona when he was previously a head coach. But what he has done with that rookie quarterback,
Can you imagine if
it's
they do it?
unbelievable. And Dan Quinn, look, 28-3 is a long time ago. That guy can coach.
Yeah.
He coached up the defense in Dallas after he left Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't want to leave until it felt right that he had a job that he really wanted. No one ever would have said that would be in Washington under the previous ownership, but that was. And Adam Peters did a great job this offseason as their GM, bringing veterans in too. And I'm glad the country's seeing how good Terry McLaurin is too.
Yeah.
Because he's been through a lot of crap in Washington. The Lions, I just can't.
No one thought.
You can't really. You saw it on all the fans' faces, right?
Yeah, they're in disbelief. It was our
Not
year.
not one person in that building thought they were going to lose that game.
And here's the unfortunate news to add to the tome of turmoil. Their offensive coordinator is now gone.
Yes, he is. He is.
He is headed
being
to
introduced at Hallis Hall right now. Not a press conference, but he's meeting everyone. How about the Bears working so quickly on that?
I mean, if you're going to get somebody,
Less than
you gotta get
48
it.
hours, so there's a 24-hour cooling off period for these guys to go back in. He only did a Zoom interview with the Bears.
And they were like, "We want you."
Very un-Bears-like.
Very un-Bears-like.
Because look, I understand the people on social media being like, the Chicago Bears win the offseason every year. That's a fair dig, but the reason why this was so different for the Chicago Bears franchise is Ben Johnson was the number one guy in this cycle. Mike Vrabel could have been, but no one else was getting him besides the Patriots.
Yeah.
So Ben Johnson was the belle of the ball here. The Bears don't get that guy. They hired Matt Eberflus. Everyone had to look him up, right?
I had to look him up, yeah.
And before that, they hired Matt Nagy. You could argue was the hot coordinator or whatever. He called plays for 5 or 6 games. Ben Johnson's been calling plays in Detroit for 3 years.
Yeah, and he's
had a top 5 offense all 3 years.
Yeah, he's been cooking.
And he made Jared Goff an MVP contender.
Yeah.
And he was not that in Los Angeles his last couple of years there. That's why it's very un-Bears-like.
Are you happy with it?
As a Bears fan, 100%, yes.
I mean, you got to be.
For the Lions,
that's tough.
Campbell said he wants a guy that's going to kind of stick. I don't think their offense will change that much. You might not see the trick plays you saw with Ben Johnson. Maybe they'll be happy about that because J-Mo throwing an interception down 10 in the fourth quarter of a playoff game, that wasn't his best move.
That is fair.
But it'll be very curious to see how the Lions kind of rebuild their coaching staff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure on Dan Campbell now.
There is.
A ton of pressure.
There is.
Even though it's the Lions and they're not used to this kind of success, those fans are they're hungry for a Super Bowl.
Bro, yeah, the expectation
they're not hungry for
15.
NFC Championship game appearances and division and number one seeds. It's the Super Bowl, and you got to rebuild your staff because Aaron Glenn's probably going to be head coach in New York or New Orleans.
Yeah, and I take
so both sides of the ball.
I take it back to what he said, or and I can't remember who it was, but a reporter asked him at the very beginning, is this season Super Bowl or bust? are the Lions. Hear me out.
And he reiterated in his press conference Monday, a few hours before Johnson took the Bears job. Well, he knows that both him and Glenn is gone too.
Yeah, Glenn is gone.
He's either going to go to the Jets or the Saints. A done deal.
Yeah.
That he knew he's going to have to rebuild his staff. And he probably knows he's under a ton of pressure doing that.
Yeah, and I think, like, here's my thing looking at the NFC North. If the Lions don't rebuild correctly, are they at the bottom of it, right? Because think of it this way. Minnesota's going to probably have J.J. McCarthy, hopefully, right?
I hope they do that, yeah.
Okay, so they're going to have basically a rookie quarterback.
I mean, Darnold's going to test the market, and if there's a team out there that wants to pay him more than the Vikings are comfortable with, then they're going to let him go. If his free agent market isn't that hot and he comes back to the Vikings, say, I'll sign for this, they could sign him to another one-year deal and let McCarthy sit for another year, maybe half a year, if Darnold gets hurt or he doesn't play that well. So that's a possibility, but why would the Vikings regress?
True, yeah, I mean, true.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. So
they have a really good coach. Packers, obviously, they're the Packers. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, like they're going to be better than they were last year. Hopefully, Jordan Love, I don't know, loves it up. I don't know.
You talk about a guy under pressure.
Jordan Love. He got paid $224 million.
Because remember what Packers fans are used to watching at quarterback.
Yeah. Gods.
Like, legitimately anyone 45 years old or younger, like, only knows Favre and Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah. So
Love can't have a year like he had this year.
No.
He was not good.
No, he was.
And the interceptions, the turnovers are terrible.
Yeah, so
all year.
He's got to be better. Minnesota's got a great coach, and they'll figure out their quarterback situation. The Chicago Bears could cook. Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson.
They're not as far off as people think.
Yeah.
Because obviously they've been a awful team for the past three seasons, essentially, under Eberflus the entire time. They were terrible, and they won 5 games this year. So understandable. They're not a good team, but they're not. They took the Vikings to overtime. They split with the Packers. They had the Lions game won on Thanksgiving. Everyone remembers what happens. That's the irony of all of this is Flus got fired because of that Detroit game when Ben Johnson is standing on the other sideline, and he wants to go coach that team.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So I'm saying the Bears were kind of hanging out here with the worst offensive line in NFL history. That might not be true, but
pretty close.
The reality is, if Ben Johnson is the guy he was in Detroit with the Bears, they're going to be a good team.
Yeah, and it's going to be an interesting year to see what happens, for sure.
So,
who do you got in the Super Bowl? 4 teams left. Who are you picking? Who do you want to see?
I want to see Kansas City out immediately, like everyone else. So,
yeah, like all of America.
Give me the Eagles over Buffalo. What we did this at the start of the postseason. I picked the Eagles over the Chiefs, didn't I?
Yeah, and I picked the Chiefs, and I can't remember. I think I picked Chiefs. Oh, I picked
Lions.
Chiefs, Lions, or Bills, Lions, and so, yeah. Just Josh Allen get his revenge.
God, I hope so. So, I guess I'll stick with Eagles over the Chiefs, but I really hope it's the Eagles and the Bills.
Fair enough.
Okay?
Good to me.
We'll see how it goes. It's time for us to sign off here. A lot of chitter-chatter between us two, but thanks for tuning in, whether you're on the live stream, watching later on YouTube, listening on Spotify. We appreciate it. And, of course, tune into those hockey games this weekend on Fox UP. Should be a lot of fun. So for King Cooper, I'm Kevin McNulty, and have a good one.